Hello and welcome to another episode of Pakistani Profile. My guest for today is one of the first Pakistani local and homegrown Pakistani racing driver. He also has acquired the International B license for driving. I have with me Sayyid Ovais Naqvi. Hi Ovais.
Hi Asha, good to be here.
Good to be here.
Yes.
And welcome to the show.
Thank
it's
you.
an honor.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Ovais, we'll get back to your racing part of the life.
Yes.
But talk about your childhood.
Okay.
What was your childhood like? What sort of family were you brought up in?
Okay.
Any memories that you hold from your childhood?
Absolutely. I've had the privilege of being of growing up in different parts of the world.
All right.
So I've spent the early part of my childhood in the Middle East, in Oman.
Okay.
And then I moved to the West, and I moved to the Caribbean, and I lived on an island in the West Indies for about 7-8 years.
Oh, all right.
And I spent a lot of time obviously there, and that was a fantastic, amazing, kind of experience or life. And then I moved back to Pakistan, and I finished high school over here.
Okay.
And I also went to medical school, so I've studied medicine. I'm a doctor, and I did that.
So
in
you're a
Pakistan.
doctor by profession.
Yeah.
All right.
So I did that, and so that was pretty much my childhood, and it was fun. Come from a small family, just a younger brother and the parents, and
Right. And experiencing very different cultures.
lots of different cultures. That's something which has kind of been very unique, to my life, is that I know Pakistan very well, and having lived here for more than 10 years, and at the same time having lived outside Pakistan, in the US and the Caribbean and the Middle East, so I can assimilate easily in either place. And
Right. So how did all this affect you as a child and your personality, experiencing such different cultures at a
Right.
very young age?
Right. It just gives you a better perspective of the whole world.
Right.
And the ability to interact with different people and understand where and how people come from and what they think and what their way of behavior, why it might be. So it just gives you a better handle on being able to work and succeed in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Ovais, talking about, you've just mentioned that you studied doctor, like
Yeah.
you've studied medical.
Yes.
And entering into a sports,
Yes.
how did that all happen? And that too
Right.
racing, because
Right.
racing is a very rare sport in our
Yes.
country. It is a huge sport and a huge event
Yeah.
abroad, and
Yeah.
it's been watched by a lot of people.
Right.
How about your choice as a racer?
As far as sports were concerned, I was always into sports.
All right.
From a young age, all kinds of sports, from racket sports to baseball, American sports, and later on even cricket and stuff. But racing, like you said, was a sport which I think every child, even male and female, loves. We all like
Right.
fast cars and driving as soon as we can, but it's a very difficult sport to get involved with. You need the proper gear, equipment, facilities, training.
Right.
It's not something which is readily available in schools or
It's
colleges.
not, yeah.
So, and that was the case with me. I did not have the opportunity, to get into it at an early age, because I had moved back to Pakistan, and I was too young to do it when I was abroad, and moved back to Pakistan, and we didn't have any facilities.
Right.
It was only after I graduated from medical school that certain opportunities came up, such as a go-karting track opened up in Pakistan,
Right.
where people could go and learn and experience. I started doing
But
it.
it was more of a fun type.
It was the facility was for fun, for recreation, but it was of a standard where, had they wanted, they could have trained and had racing championships. They never
Right.
used it for that.
Right.
So I had to train myself. I learned myself by watching other drivers who at the time were better than me, by watching it on TV and understanding the principles, and also reading up on it, and then actually trying to, I would go out there and practice on my own for hours.
So this was all done by you?
This was all done by me.
There was no training institute, nothing at all?
No, nothing.
And did you visit abroad to get further training in this particular field?
Yes, afterwards, as I started going forward, another kind of watershed moment in this was that a racing series called A1GP was started, which was a
Right.
global racing series.
Right.
It was one step below F1. And the concept was that the teams in that represented a country. So we had 25 teams, and there was a Team Pakistan that was put in. They needed obviously a Pakistani driver. So at that time, I was just doing go-karting, and you need the proper training and licenses to
Right,
drive that
right.
level. And I contacted the team, and they told me that, look, you have to do X, Y, Z, and then we'll consider you.
Right.
And that's how then I decided to put medicine on hold and take the next step, which is to let's do this seriously, professionally. And I went abroad. I went to Spain, and I did a Formula BMW racing course, the beginner's course.
Right. And this was financed by you.
It was financed by me.
Sure, right.
Yeah. Then I went to Bahrain, and again I did the advanced Formula BMW course at the F1 circuit in Bahrain.
Okay.
And that again was financed by me. And after doing those courses, I got the basic racing license, the lowest level, the entry level.
Right.
The next step to move up is you have to do some junior formula races.
Right.
And then you upgrade your license. Now, normally, typically, a driver in the West is going to get the basic license, and he's going to spend 2, 3, 4 years racing with that, you know, in various series,
Okay.
and then they'll upgrade. But because we're Pakistani, financial constraints and you know, opportunity constraints, I needed to accelerate my learning so I could get to A1 as quickly as possible. So I did the bare minimum 5 races required to get the B license, and I did those 2 races I did in Bahrain again later on, which were Formula Thunder Arabia.
Right.
And then I went to the US and I did 3 races in the Skip Barber Championship in America. And that made me eligible for a B license. It was the bare minimum requirement, but hey, that's what you got to do. And I got that, and then I was offered the drive for A1 GP for Team Pakistan.
Alright.
But that came with strings attached, where they said that, look, you need to bring about $2 million of sponsorship from Pakistan to the team, otherwise the team will cease to exist, because, you know, the Goras who were funding the team were tired of, you know, for 3 years they were like, look, unless we get sponsorship from Pakistan, we're not going to keep this team alive.
So eventually, did you end up getting those sponsors?
No,
or
that didn't
So you
happen.
dropped out of the competition.
So there was I actually signed up and then couldn't get to race with that. And going forward, then there were other racing opportunities that were coming my way, which were a little lower cost, but still high profile. Like Formula 2 has invited me to come and race, and even now I can go and race in Formula 2 anytime, which is one step below F1,
Right.
if I have the funding. But
So
it
the
all
basic problem comes to funding.
it comes to funding, because
Sponsorships.
racing requires you to have like F2, which is a very high profile series and a very low cost series, requires 400,000 pounds, which is, you know,
A
about
huge amount of
yeah.
investment. But what do you think is the reason that you do not get sponsorships? I mean, as in, is it just your sport, or is it sports in general in Pakistan that they do not get so much of sponsorships?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Both.
Yeah, cricket sucks up most of
Most of the
the
finances,
available marketing budgets for sponsorships.
Right.
Having said that, sports here are not run professionally. You know, people who are in charge of sports, I mean, they're not professionals. A lot of the times they haven't even played or taken part, so they don't know how things need to be structured, taken forward. As far as racing is concerned, we are even further on a handicap, because at least other sports like tennis, squash, cricket, football, hockey, they have stadiums and facilities all over the country.
You do not even have that
we don't
basic
even
infrastructure.
we don't even have a single race track or go-karting track where people can come and experience and learn. So
Right.
we as a sport are even further, and that is what is a hindrance.
Right. So, Ovais, you being a racer yourself and facing all these problems, how are you dealing with it? What are you doing to, you know, get everything in?
Yeah. What I'm doing is, as far as my own racing is concerned, I realized that in order to make this happen, what I need to do is build a track and have a facility where not just for me but for other aspiring, because I'll give you, Aisha, there's a huge untapped pool of enthusiasts and kids and boys and girls
Sure.
and who want to be able to do
Right.
this either as fun, just purely as a hobby, or then a little more seriously as a sport and take it forward. But they don't have guidance and they don't have.
Yeah, that's actually true, because I know a lot of my male friends who are interested in racing, and they do it on their own, very private racing
Right.
on some empty road, because they don't have that facility
Right.
to practice it somewhere where there's a proper place made for
Right.
that purpose.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. Like, you have a lot of people, and I'm sure friends and stuff that go and race on phase 8.
Yeah.
Right, on the
Yeah,
streets
that's the
and
place I was talking about, yeah.
exactly. So what we want to do is we want to give all of those people an opportunity to come and do 3 things: experience it, do it for fun, learn if they want to, and then once they've experienced and learned, train and compete.
Right.
So that's what I'm doing. That is the way forward, because once we have a facility, the public will come. Once the public comes, the media will come. When the public and the media are there, then the brands and sponsors will automatically want. They'll see the value at that point. So that's the strategy to take it forward.
Okay. Ovais, what according to you is the potential of racing in Pakistan? For instance, if you do develop all those infrastructure, do you think people are going to take this as a profession, as a sport profession?
Racing is a very exclusive sport. So it's not a team sport which allows or gives an opportunity to many people to get into it. An example is Formula One only has a 24 driver grid. Out of 6 billion people in the world, only 24 can make it to there. So it's a tough sport to break into. In Pakistan, the scope is huge because, again, it's untapped and there's nobody providing you this thing. And the talent and the interest is huge because you have kids racing, you have kids on the streets, you have kids watching TV, the races, F1,
Yeah, definitely.
and you have them playing video games.
Yeah.
So the scope is big. Professionally, I think you won't have hundreds of drivers coming through. You'll maybe have within 100 or few. That's the way the sport is,
But
who
you
become
will
professional.
get
But you will get them. You'll get some guys. You'll get some girls. And over time, I think we can push a driver internationally who can maybe even someday have a Pakistani racing in F1. I mean, there's definitely scope for that. And while out of 180 million, I mean, if you look at India. India has had 2 drivers out of a billion some population make it to F1. So there's no reason why we can't get there as well.
Right.
The scope is there, and from a business point of view,
and the talent is there.
And not just for us, because if we build a track of international standard, I already have friends in the international racing community who want a track to be built here so that they will come, they'll bring their teams, they'll come themselves to train.
And hold events.
Yeah, and hold events and race, and even a few instructors that I know would love to come here and give instructions and hold training courses for
Only if the opportunity is provided, and that's what you're working on.
That's what we're working on.
Right. Ovais, who has been your inspiration throughout this journey?
I haven't had a real life as such inspiration, but there's a couple of I mean, you're going to find this funny, but there's a couple of movies or so on that I've always been inspired by. And it's funny, and they're boxing related movies, so actually Rocky has always inspired me,
Yeah.
And it's a fictitious character, but just if you watch it, the way the guy fights against a lot of the odds, and sort of the determination and the will to keep going against all the hurdles. So that's actually inspired me. And then there's a real life boxer, which was James Maddox back in the 30s during the Depression in the US, and there's a movie made on him called The Cinderella Man. So those things have really inspired me.
All these sports-based movies, they are a big source of inspiration because there's so much to learn out of it,
Right.
and you being involved. That I always say that to all the mothers and all the parents,
Right.
that please make sure that your kids are involved in sports, because sports in itself teaches you a lot.
Right.
It's a totally different world for a kid.
Yeah.
And there's so much exploration, there's so much of experiences that one can have.
It builds character, I mean, because when you compete, you learn to lose because
Yeah.
you're not going to win.
Yeah.
So it builds character. You have to fight against adversity. You have to be aware of your shortcomings and how to improve them. So
Yeah, and you really have to work on the willpower.
Yeah.
Because once you lose that out, then
Yeah.
there is nothing
Yes.
for you.
You know, so yeah, absolutely. And it's a good part of being healthy, being an all-round person, you
Right.
know, of having that in your life. So
Right.
absolutely.
Okay, so what are your future plans other than working on this whole project of
Right.
setting up a track?
Well, once we set up this track, then the future plan is to set one up in Lahore,
Okay.
set one up in Islamabad,
Right.
you know, and that's as far as the business is concerned. And hopefully, once those are set up, I still will keep pursuing my goal of trying to race in Formula racing abroad and pushing, you know, which is why I stay fit and maintain my health and stuff.
Right.
And having studied medicine, that is also something which is in my long-term goals to
Okay.
pursue that in a proper way as well.
Okay.
Once some of these things are more stabilized and up and running.
Right. Ovais, in the end, your message for the nation of Pakistan?
Just you shouldn't always think positive. Don't doubt yourself. Don't consider yourself incapable or unable of achieving anything. I mean, if you have a dream, a goal, a passion, then you need to,
Work
you know,
through it.
you need to push it. You need to try. Always
Right.
try.
Thank you so much, Ovais.
Thank you for having
I wish
me.
you the best for your upcoming
Thank you
projects,
so
and
much for
hopefully you will manage to get all the sponsorship
Inshallah,
that you're
inshallah.
looking for.
Thank you.
For more Pakistani profiles, you can visit our website pakistaniprofiles.com.